Retro Hangover, supported via Patreon by listeners like you. We would especially like to thank patrons Lyle McKarns, Ashton Ruby, Randall Quiggle, Tony G, Studstill Smash the Milkman, Katie Quigg, Paul Romalho, Raging Demon JC, Meagan Caruso, MaskedKeaton, Andrew Liguori, Ozzy Garcia, The Retro Vixen, Adam from The Good, the Bad, the Backlog, Thunderdome Gaming Society, Dischimera, Jenny E, Rick Firestone, ParallaxPuddles, Soha, Keith Gasper, Dave Jackson, Eric Gess, Kayla Jackson, Nomad from the Retro Wildlands podcast, Ashevent, Alan Bingham, StormBeagle, Ryan Player 1, and Mike the Rep from Backbreaker Gaming. Your continued engagement and generous donations are deeply appreciated. Welcome to The Flight, a consumable curation of champions and catastrophes that is considerate of your chronometer. It is me, Chris Copleen, on the Retro Hangover Flight, and as always, I'm joined by your host, Shane, the drunken Dick Dragon Koski, because he's sharing a beer with all his friends today. Shane, how are you doing on this fine flight-tastic day?
I'm doing all right. I got all these fine individuals here to share a drink with. Like things are good.
Sweet. We have plenty of people we are going to be talking about today because today we are talking about the top 5 protagonists that we would share a beer with. And if you want to know where we got this topic from, it's because our patrons suggested it in our Discord server, and then they voted on it over at Patreon, which you can do too for as little as $1 a month. The patron that suggested this topic for this week is Rick Firestone from the Pixel Project Radio podcast, where I have been on there before. Shane, have you been on PPR yet?
I have not, but I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but if I haven't, I'm going to go on record that Rick Firestone is just a fantastic name. Like he should be like a secret agent or some shit.
Yes. His cover would be a tire salesman. I think that would be a good option.
He's definitely never heard that joke before. I'm
sure he has not. Yeah. I'm sure he's tired of it. But Rick Firestone from the Pixel Project Radio. He's awesome. I would definitely share a beer with him. But Shane, are we ready to get into this?
Yeah, let's pour this out. Let's do it.
Number 5.
All right. Well, I want to preface the rest of this episode by saying that I took a somewhat liberal interpretation of protagonist. So a lot of mine are not necessarily like the main protag of the game that they're in, but I consider them to be protagonists kind of in their own right. And also, it's my list, and I can do whatever I want. So, my number 5 is KK Slider from Animal Crossing, because he's just a chill-ass dog, He's just a cool dude with an acoustic guitar, and, like, I just feel like it'd be like a real chill time. Like, I'm imagining we'd probably be at some kind of tiki bar or something, just grabbing a couple of brews. He's just sitting there, busts out the acoustic guitar and just does some Sublime-esque jams, just some real chill, like, ska going on. Like, just, it sounds like a good time. Like, I just feel like he'd be a real cool dude to hang out with.
So I also took a liberal interpretation of what protagonist meant. So not all of my picks will also be the main protag. I also, when I was thinking about what characters I'd pick for this, I had to ask myself, would this character like a beer? Or would they be more interested in hard liquor, or maybe a seltzer, or maybe a bourbon? So I had to think, like, I'm just going to stick to someone that would have a beer with me. So that knocked out like a lot of my choices, like Bayonetta. I don't think she liked beer. And actually, there's no women on my list, unfortunately, because Misato from Neon Genesis Evangelion, she's in an anime, so it wouldn't work, and I didn't really want to cross those lines. So maybe next time, if you want to suggest that. But I'm just going to kick it off with my number 5. And my number 5 is from a game I actually don't like, and he is the main protagonist, but I was playing through this game and I thought to myself, we could have some really good discussions because a lot of the frustrations he seems to go through, I can empathize with and I can severely relate to, and that is Squall from Final Fantasy VIII. Because too many times in that game, he seems like he wants nothing to do with responsibility. He doesn't want to lead anybody. He's just tired of everybody just getting in his shit or trying to be his friend or have conversations with him he doesn't really want to deal with. And I'm like, yeah, man, I totally get that. And even when he just manages to fumble his way through and become successful and he doesn't really want the spotlight, he keeps getting the spotlight put on him. So, from a professional standpoint, Squall, I understand it. Let's have a beer. Let's talk it over. I feel you. And also, like those relationship problems you're having with Renoa, like, look, she's crazy, dog. You just need to dump her because she has problems, man. And that's the kind of conversations I would have. I would talk to him about the benefits of Keestis over Renoa, how Zell just needs to chill out and he should probably get on some Ritalin or something like that because he has issues. Irvine, we talk about how he's kind of a loner and kind of creepy and he should keep his friends away from him. But at the end of the day, Squall seems like a dude that we could just chill, blow off some steam, have a couple beers, and just talk about how the world is just against us and we don't understand why people have this mentality, why they suck, why they can't get their jobs done, and why it always comes back to rely on us. So yeah, Squall's my number 5.
Number 4.
All right. Well, moving on up to my number 4. This may have some recency bias, although to be fair, I hadn't really had much experience with the series up until very recently anyway, so take that for what you will. But I'm gonna go with Solid Snake from Metal Gear Solid. I feel like he'd be a pretty cool dude to sit down and have a beer with, mostly just to listen to his like war stories. I just feel like he's got a lot of really great stories. And I mean, not to mention the fact that he's just got that really, that really great that gravelly white man voice makes everything sound real intense. Plus, it would also be a hoot to just kind of watch him try to hit on literally every woman in the bar. So yeah, the Solid Snake is my number 4.
That's a great pick. So my number 4, I completely cheated on this one, but he is a protagonist in some video games. But
Oh.
even if he's known to be an antagonist in many others. And I think this guy could really get down and have a great time drinking, even though he's only been shown to drink champagne when he's been consuming alcohol. But this guy would be fun. It would be Bowser. So I would enjoy, I think he would just be the life of the party. If you've seen the writing that he's had in like Super Mario RPG or just the Paper Mario series, this guy, he's a little unbalanced, but at the end of the day, he just seems like a big soft teddy bear that just wants to be loved. So if I could sit down and have a beer with him, he'd have a great time. He might get a little emotional, but you know what? That's to be expected when we all start drinking. So I could forgive it, and I'd probably come back and drink with him the next week, because when you can breathe fire, some of the hilarity that could ensue from that, as long as there's no major property damage and no one gets killed, I could have a great time with Bowser.
Yeah, I was about to say, as long as he doesn't get totally wasted and go into like just a downward spiral and just sing about peaches.
Number 3.
All right. Well, my number 3, I think, so it's interesting because there were some other picks I had considered and I ultimately didn't go with them because I felt like they'd probably be too intense for my taste, like that we'd end up in like the drunk tank at 2 a.m. or something.
That's the best way.
Yeah, well, so I feel like this one and possibly my next one might skirt that line a little bit, but I think it would be worth it. And so my number 3 is Minsk and Boo from Baldur's Gate. Minx would be fantastic to drink with because he's kind of crazy and he's a barbarian and he just does not give a fuck. He would put away some beer, let me tell you what. And honestly, anybody that also has a miniature giant space hamster and 100% believes that to be true, you know what? Fuck it. I'm on board with that. I want to see what happens. So I think he'd just be a lot of fun. Ultimately, it would probably end in a tavern brawl, but you know what? It would make for a really great story.
I think that would be a lot of fun, especially with the space hamster.
definitely.
My number 3 is going to be a little bit more obscure, maybe not for our listeners, but in the general video game ephemera, and that is Ronfar from Lunar 2. I already know he's down to drink because he's drunk most of that game. Yes, it's because he's trying to bury his past, but you know what? We all have our issues, as I've already stated. So I know he can put down some serious beer. I know he has loaded dice, so I could steal that bar blind, especially if he becomes a good drinking buddy with me. We could figure this out. We'd drink for free. We'd probably make a profit. Also, he can heal people because he's a priest or a cleric or whatever you want to call it. So, like, if I get too drunk, he can just cast a little litany on me and I'd be good to go the next day. Like, I wouldn't even have to worry about hangovers. I could go to the drunk tank at 3 o'clock in the morning, and not only would he be in the drunk tank with me, he'd be my medic. So, Ronfar, I would love to hang out with him. I know he'd get a little upset about his girlfriend that completely, changed her personality into some demon chick after he revived her when she was supposed to die. And look, we could talk about that. There's no harm there.
Yeah, I mean, when hasn't that happened, right?
That happens to everybody.
Yeah.
So, Ronfar from Lunar 2, you would be my number 3 pick, and we'd have a great time.
Number 2.
Well, my penultimate choice, my list of protagonists that I would share a beer with, is it's potentially a twofer. I would like it if I got the bonus, but if not, at the very least, I'll take my primary pick. But that is Kaine, with bonus choice of also including Grimoire Vice, because even just Kaine on her own from Nier, by the way, for those of you who aren't familiar, I should probably mention that, but even just Kaine on her own, she gives exactly 0 fucks about anything, and she would just be a hell of a lot of fun to share drinks with, just to see what kind of shenanigans you end up getting into, Like, she's just very sure of herself in that way. Like, I just feel like she could definitely handle her booze, and I think it would just be a really entertaining time. And bonus, if we do get Grimoire Vice to come along as well, that little dynamic between the two of them that's like worth the price of admission right there. So, yeah, so that's why it's my number 2, because I really think that would be a solid time.
I think that is a fantastic pick. I am upset I did not pick Kaine. I'm very upset because I've picked her before. I didn't want to go back to the well, but that is a great pick. She would put down some booze.
Hell yeah.
My number 2 is he's a guy, he's always at the bar, and I thought to myself, I need a dude bro. I need someone who is a dude bro, because every once in a while you need that frat party atmosphere, and just to liven everything up. Someone who comes with a group of dudes. They might not be great people, but they're dude bros, and you do need that to liven up life every once in a while, even though that's not where this game goes really. And that is Vincent Brooks from Catherine. And we could spend the entire night drinking. We could be talking to dudes in the bar that will later show up as sheep in our dreams. And we could become faster every single time we drink, coincidentally. And so I would drink tons of beer and I would get super fast. And the game will tell me that beer doesn't make me fat. So I'm going to believe that, and I'm going to drink more of it, because that is what it is. Because you get little drink facts every single time you drink it. So if I was drinking with Vincent Brooks, I would be able to get really smart on alcohol knowledge, also become faster, and have really, really trippy dreams. Plus, we could sit around and joke like women. Am I right? I mean, that'd be kind of missing the point, but it would be entertaining. And we could sing the night away talking about cheating on our significant others because one might be pregnant and is scaring us. So, Vincent Brooks from Catherine, I am down to drink with you. I am down to have a good time with your frat buddies. We are going to have a great night before we have a horrible one. Looking forward to it.
Man, that was a roller coaster.
Number 1.
Well, I suppose that brings us to the number 1 spot. And I could not think of anybody better to occupy that territory on my list than the one man who constantly insists that you stay a while and listen. So it's definitely got to be Deckard Cain from the Diablo series. I will say that this definitely has to be one that you need to be okay with just like just chilling and listening to an old dude tell you a bunch of stories, because that is 100% what's going to happen. But the tales that he will spin for you are going to be absolutely worth it. And plus, he is the last of the Haradrim. He is a walking like library of knowledge. And so not only are you going to have an entertaining time sharing some ales with good old Deckard, but you're going to come away with it like having learned something. And probably, if we're talking in universe, probably something very important that maybe one day will keep you alive. So Deckard Cain, definitely my number one.
My number one is also a character that comes from medieval times, and he is somewhat of I guess you would call a holy man, depending on the way you view it. But I had to think of something who would be able to have crazy antics. And I understand most of the personality I'm getting from this character is from an animated series in addition to the game. But I'm fine with that. I'm just going to apply it because I'd rather have the game version of him anyway because he comes with more friends. And that is Ralph, also known as Trevor Belmont. Ralph being his Japanese name. And he had to have gotten that name from some nights of just incredible drinking parties. Because why else would you abandon the name Ralph when you come over to the United States? You don't want people to know your reputation. So when I hang out with Trevor, I'm just going to call him Trevor now because I'm an American and he doesn't want to be called Ralph. And that's fine. We are going to have a great night of not just drinking beer, but probably some ale, which is a beer when you think about it, and mead, which is also a drink when you think about it. And the thing is that he has all these sort of devices that you can have fun with. Like you'd probably be hanging out with Grant and Grant would get like super drunk too. And he'd start climbing up the walls and that could be fun. You could take some holy water and just like sneak it into like Sypha's clothes and use your imagination there and just make jokes about how it burns and then just laugh at her while she casts a magic spell on you and just does extraordinary damage. And then you could like have fun in games with your crucifix while you show it to Alucard and piss him off because he's not getting drunk. He's probably just sitting in the corner moping about his mom or some shit. So if I'm with Trevor, we are going to have a great time. We'll probably kill some zombies, and it'll be hilarious. He'll probably give me his whip, the vampire killer. I'll whirl it around like a helicopter. We'll laugh. We'll have a good time. Grant will be having a good time. Sypha and Alucard, they'd be kind of pissed off. But at the end of the day, I cannot see myself having more fun than with any other person if I am going to get trashed. And I will get trashed with Trevor, anyone that's seen the animated series, which I do like. So stop the hate. I think it's fine. But I am just going to have a blast. Dracula, he could hang out too. I don't think that's going to end the way he wants it to. Death can sit on the sidelines because that death and drinking, that's a bad combo. But that's why I have Trevor there. And if he's with me, then I don't have to worry about Death spoiling the party because he has all this stuff. Also the stopwatch. So if we're having a drinking competition, he could use the stopwatch and I could cheat and say like I drank it way faster than you did. All these, I'm just thinking about like the sub weapons that could just really make this night entertaining. And maybe I could get a loincloth like he does. I want that loincloth and those boots and stuff like that and wear it around. I think that would be motivational for me when I go to the gym so I could fill it in one day. So yeah, Trevor, you're my number one. If you want me to call you Ralph again, I can. I understand that, there's some things that are tied to that. And look, I think it's okay. I think you can wear it as a badge of honor because as long as you don't Ralph, they're going to ask what the story is. Okay, cool. So there you go. My number one, Trevor Belmont.
Nice. I like that pick. I also, before we wrap things up, I wanted to give an honorable mention shout out, which actually, in a way, I am surprised did not make your list. But he was almost on mine and actually kind of close to the top as well. But that is Garrus Vakarian from Mass Effect. Garrus is just a solid dude. Like, he's like the ultimate wingman. And not only is he usually like pretty level-headed and mostly like chill and that sort of thing, but like he can throw down when it calls for throwing down.
I did think about him, but he strikes me as a whiskey man.
Really? Oh, okay, because you were going with the strictly beer thing.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Like same with Rex. Rex would be a beer dude. Rex would definitely be a beer dude.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that would get a little too rambunctious.
Probably, yeah. All right, well, there you have it. Those are our top 5 video game protagonists that we would love to share a beer with. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And you know what? If you've got some different picks or some thoughts on the ones that we chose, feel free to let us know. You can leave a comment pretty much anywhere where we're at on the socials. You can leave reviews. You can also jump into our public Discord, which is always open and always poppin', as the kids say, probably like 20 years ago. Anyway,
What's poppin'?
Yeah. So you can find that as well as all the other goodies over at linktree/retro hangover. So just head on over to linktr.ee/retro hangover and click on them there buttons. And perhaps that might take you to our Patreon or our merch store. If you want to support the show in that fashion, we would of course be forever grateful. Not to mention the Patreon gives you access to a butt ton of extra content that is not seen anywhere else. And so go check all that out. And we also have a Twitch, which Chris is going to tell you a little bit about and what we do there on Sunday evenings.
Yes, that's right. So if you want to, in theory, share a beer with us, you could head over to twitch.tv/retrohangover at 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays. Because generally when I'm streaming, I'm drinking a beverage that technically I can't tell you I'm drinking a beer because it's on Twitch, and I think that's against standards. So I'm going to be drinking a beverage, wink, wink, that we can pretend is a beer.
There you go.
So if you show up, you can drink a beer. That's fine. I'm just going to be drinking something in a koozie, in an aluminum can or a bottle that resembles beer, but isn't a beer, but we can pretend is a beer.
Yeah, definitely.
At twitch.tv/retrohangover, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on Sundays.
All right, well, there you have it. So with all of that now having been said, until next time,
Play with your... We're going to have some really cancelable opinion conversations while we're drunk joysticks.